Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into a truly radical philosophical text by an author named Xu Feng. Now, I absolutely love unpacking complex, world-shifting ideas, and trust me, this one is guaranteed to challenge your perspective. The text we're looking at today completely flips how we conventionally perceive blame, suffering, and honestly, the very nature of reality itself. We're going to break down this philosophy piece by piece, relying solely on the exact concepts laid out in the source material. So get ready to question literally everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. Let's jump right in. We're plunging right into this thought experiment by asking the exact core question that anchors this whole explainer. Who is wrong? It sounds like such a simple, everyday question, right? But the author's answer? It's a total paradigm shift. According to the text, no one in the world is wrong. Everyone is right. Just take a second to let that sink in. No way, right? Well, the text posits this thought experiment. If we believe everything in the world is right, we prove ourselves right. But if we think everything is wrong, well, we merely prove that we ourselves are wrong. So the absolutely crucial point here is that you have no one and nothing to blame. The author insists that we cannot blame heaven, we can't blame the earth, we can't blame society, and we definitely cannot blame other people. The underlying logic here is kind of fascinating. It's that if you look out at the world and perceive that something is wrong or broken, it doesn't actually mean the world is flawed. It merely means your own understanding and perception of the world are flawed. To really help us grasp this, the author uses this brilliant metaphor from the animal kingdom. Think about a mouse. From a mouse's perspective, burrowing holes is absolutely the right thing to do, and it's mankind who is completely wrong for trying to stop them. But then consider the cat. Does the cat feel guilty about catching those mice? Of course not. Cats believe their actions are perfectly, 100% justified. Both of these creatures are operating perfectly within their own realities. And this dynamic plays out all over nature. Wolves eat meat and sheep eat grass. The text asks, so who is right and who is wrong here? The answer is that both are absolutely right. The author argues that if we observe this dynamic and somehow find it inappropriate or cruel, well, it's actually our own cognitive framework that's out of place, not the natural order itself. Nature isn't wrong. Our understanding of it is. Now, the author extends this radical neutrality far beyond just the animal kingdom, applying it directly to human beliefs and behaviors. Whether someone follows Christianity, Buddhism, or Marxism, the text states, all are right, whether you love money, beauty, solitude, or even fighting. The text even goes as far as to say that whether someone is fascinated by being a police officer or obsessed with being a thief, whether they're incredibly lazy or incredibly hardworking, nobody is fundamentally wrong. We just aren't the ones to judge who is right or wrong. Things are simply right for the individuals experiencing them. What is truly fascinating about all this is how unapologetically strict this philosophy becomes regarding personal responsibility. The text insists that if you're sick, you literally cannot resent society or others. It is your own fault. If you're in poverty or if you have a troubled mind filled with problems, you cannot blame society. The author writes that if you think the greatest creator or heaven is dead, it's actually you who are dead inside. If you believe Buddha lacks compassion, it's you who are lacking in compassion. It's basically a giant mirror reflecting your inner state. To understand exactly how the author justifies this incredibly internal view of the universe, we really need to define a term used in the text, 10,000 dharmas. The text defines this as the concept that reality is mere consciousness, entirely created by the mind. It goes so deep that the author claims even the physical structure of a single water molecule, whether you perceive it as beautiful or ugly, depends completely and utterly on your own subjective attitude towards it. And this brings us to perhaps the most challenging and provocative claim in the entire source material. The text says, in this view, wars, plagues, earthquakes, floods, and fires are not wrong. It is we who are wrong. The text pushes this philosophy to its absolute edge, extending it to say that even burning, looting, embezzlement, bribery, and rampant mafia-style activities are not inherently wrong. Now, to be clear, the argument here isn't an endorsement of these acts. Rather, it's a philosophical stance that what we think of as objective reality is just a reflection of our subjective consciousness creating that reality in our own minds. The text grounds this extreme subjectivity in its own philosophical interpretation of a scientific concept, the quantum observer effect. According to the text's explanation of quantum mechanics, the existence and actions of an observed thing depend entirely on the observer, meaning the type of observer you are dictates the exact type of reality you observe. The action of whatever is being observed depends fundamentally on the observer's state of mind. It's all about you. The author brilliantly illustrates this by actually applying the quantum observer theory to himself. How do different people perceive the author, Xu? Well, to some, he's seen as a messenger of the greatest creator or a saint. To others, he's just a friend or a second half. But to some, he is a witch, a madman, a street shrew, or even an erotomaniac. The text points out that what he actually is to any given person depends entirely on the cognitive framework and mentality of the person looking at him. His identity fractures into wildly different realities based purely on the observer's mind. The text neatly summarizes this entire concept with a phrase we all know: beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But then it adds a vital, really interesting corollary: the devil is in the eye of the enemy. The core takeaway here is that you can only see gods and Buddha in the world if you already carry gods and Buddha in your own mind. Conversely, you will only see devils in the world if you hold devils in your own mind. Okay, so if we accept this radical premise, how do we actually fix our problems? Well, for Tao learners, step 1 is recognizing that you are wrong and your current plight is just a reflection of your false consciousness. Step 2, do not try to change others or society. Actually, scratch that. Don't try to change anything outside yourself. Instead, change your own consciousness and cultivate what the text calls a beautiful soul. Step 3, once you change yourself, watch how society and your environment will automatically change to match your new state. This internal shift isn't just about feeling a bit better. The text frames this as one of the 8 secrets of life. The author introduces the concept of the 1,000-year world, which is this higher level of existence. The rule is simple. To live in a beautiful environment like the 1,000-year world, you must first acquire a consciousness and a beautiful soul that is fit for it. Once you have the right soul, entering this higher state is, according to the text, as easy as rolling a log. But, if it's so easy, why aren't we all living in infinite joy right now? The text acknowledges that this paradigm shift is incredibly difficult for one main reason. Thinking has inertia. As human beings, we share this common laziness, an unwillingness to engage in really deep thinking. We naturally prefer to let our minds run on conventional tracks because, well, it's simpler and requires less effort. But the text warns that relying on this conventional thinking has absolutely no future and just leads to endless, repeating predicaments. You escape one problem and boom, the next one immediately arrives. So this entire philosophy ultimately boils down to a set of rapid-fire binary choices. The text presents reality as a series of stark consequences. Want to jump off a building? You'll go to hell. Want to cultivate Tao? You'll go to heaven. More practically for our daily lives, if you want to suffer, all you have to do is keep a narrow mind, stick to conventional thinking, and insist that you're never wrong. Torment is pretty much guaranteed. But if you want to be joyful and blessed, simply open your mind, engage in unconventional thinking, realize that you are the one who is wrong, and you will unlock infinite joy. We're going to conclude this explainer exactly as the source text does, with a brilliant, almost dizzying paradox. After explaining that everything is right and only our perception is wrong, the author asks, did I say wrong? Who is wrong, you or I? I know I am wrong, but are you right? It leaves you to completely grapple with the ultimate paradox of subjective reality. It forces you to look inward and ask yourself, are you truly ready to view the world, with all its complexities, through a lens where literally no one else is ever to blame? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Take some time to reflect on this, and I'll see you in the next explainer.